In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 294. Narrated Al-Qasim. Aisha said, "We set out with the sole intention of performing Hajj, and when we reached Sarif, a place 6 miles from Mecca, I got my menses. Allah's apostle came to me while I was weeping. He said, 'What is the matter with you? Have you got your menses?' I replied, 'Yes.' He said, 'This is a thing which Allah has ordained for the daughters of Adam. So do what all the pilgrims do with the exception of the tawaf, circumambulation, round the Kaaba.' Aisha added, Allah's apostle sacrificed cows on behalf of his wives. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 295. Narrated Aisha, while in menses, I used to comb the hair of Allah's apostle. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 296. Narrated Urwa. A person asked me, "Can a woman in menses serve me? And can a junub woman come close to me?" I replied, "All this is easy for me. All of them can serve me, and there is no harm for any other person to do the same." Aisha told me that she used to comb the hair of Allah's apostle while she was in her menses, and he was an i'tikaf in the mosque. He would bring his head near her in her room, and she would comb his hair while she used to be in her menses. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 297. Narrated Aisha, the Prophet used to lean on my lap and recite Qur'an while I was in menses. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 298. Narrated Salama, while I was laid with the Prophet under a single woolen sheet, I got the menses. I slipped away and put on the clothes for menses. He said, "Have you got Nifa's menses?" I replied, "Yes." He then called me and made me lie with him under the same sheet. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 299. Narrated Aisha, the Prophet and I used to take a bath from a single pot while we were junub. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 300. During the menses, he used to order me to put on an izar, dress worn below the waist, and used to fondle me. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 301. While in i'tikaf, he used to bring his head near me, and I would wash it while I used to be in my periods, menses. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 302. Narrated Abdurrahman bin al-Aswad. On the authority of his father, Aisha said, whenever Allah's apostle wanted to fondle any one of us during her periods, menses, he used to order her to put on a izar and start fondling her. Aisha added, none of you could control his sexual desires as the Prophet could. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 303. Narrated Maymuna. Whenever Allah's apostle wanted to fondle any of his wives during the periods, menses, he used to ask her to wear an izar. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 304. Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Once Allah's apostle went out to Muzala to offer prayer, O Idealata or Al-Fitr prayer. Then he passed by the women and said, O women, give alms, as I have seen that the majority of the dwellers of hellfire were you women. They asked, why is it so, O Allah's apostle? He replied, you curse frequently and are ungrateful to your husbands. I have not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and religion than you. A cautious, sensible man could be led astray by some of you. The women asked, O Allah's apostle, what is deficient in our intelligence and religion? He said, is not the evidence of 2 women equal to the witness of 1 man? They replied in the affirmative. He said, this is a deficiency in her intelligence. Isn't it true that a woman can neither pray nor fast during her menses? The women replied in the affirmative. He said, this is a deficiency in her religion. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 305. Narrated Aisha. We set out with the Prophet for Hajj, and when we reached Sarif, I got my menses. When the Prophet came to me, I was weeping. He asked, why are you weeping? I said, I wish if I had not performed Hajj this year. He asked, maybe that you got your menses? I replied, yes. He then said, this is a thing which Allah has ordained for all the daughters of Adam. So do what all the pilgrims do except that you do not perform the tawaf round the Kaaba till you are clean. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 306. Narrated Aisha. Fatima bin Abi Hubaysh said to Allah's apostle, O Allah's apostle, I do not become clean from bleeding. Shall I give up my prayers? Allah's apostle replied, no, because it is from a blood vessel and not the menses. So when the Real menses begins, give up your prayers, and when at the period has finished, wash the blood off your body, take a bath, and offer your prayers. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 307. Narrated Asma bin Abi Bakr. A woman asked Allah's apostle, "O Allah's apostle, what should we do if the blood of Menses falls on our clothes?" Allah's apostle replied, "If the blood of Menses falls on the garment of any one of you, she must take hold of the blood spot, rub it, and wash it with water, and then pray in with it." Sahih Bukhari Hadith 308. Narrated Aisha. Whenever any one of us got her menses, she, on becoming clean, used to take hold of the blood spot and rub the blood off her garment, and pour water over it, and wash that portion thoroughly, and sprinkle water over the rest of the garment. After that, she would pray in with it. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 309. Narrated Aisha. Once one of the wives of the Prophet did i'tikaf along with him, and she was getting bleeding in between her periods. She used to see the blood from her private parts, and she would perhaps put a dish under her for the blood. The sub-narrator, Ikrimah, added, Aisha once saw the liquid of safflower and said, "It looks like what so and so used to have." Sahih Bukhari Hadith 310. Narrated Aisha. One of the wives of Allah's apostle joined him in i'tikaf, and she noticed blood and yellowish discharge from her private parts, and put a dish under her when she prayed. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 311. Narrated Aisha. One of the mothers of the faithful believers, i.e. the wives of the Prophet, did i'tikaf while she was having bleeding in between her periods. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 312. Narrated Aisha. None of us had more than a single garment, and we used to have our menses while wearing it. Whenever it got soiled with blood of menses, we used to apply saliva to the blood spot and rub off the blood with our nails. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 313. Narrated Atiyah. We were forbidden to mourn for a dead person for more than 3 days, except in the case of a husband for whom mourning was allowed for 4 months and 10 days. During that time, we were not allowed to put coal and ammonium powder in our eyes, or to use perfumes, or to put on colored clothes except a dress made of ASR, a kind of Yemen cloth, very coarse and rough. We were allowed very light perfumes at the time of taking a bath after menses, and also we were forbidden to go with the funeral procession. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 314. Narrated Aisha. A woman asked the Prophet about the bath which is take after finishing from the menses. The Prophet told her what to do and said, "Purify yourself with a piece of cloth scented with musk." The woman asked, "How shall I purify myself with it?" He said, "Subhanallah, purify yourself with it." I pulled her to myself and said, "Rub the place soiled with blood with it." Sahih Bukhari Hadith 315. Narrated Aisha. An Ansari woman asked the Prophet how to take a bath after finishing from a menses. He replied, "Take a piece of cloth perfumed with musk and clean the private parts with it thrice." The Prophet felt shy and turned his face, so pulled her to me and told her what the Prophet meant. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 316. Narrated Aisha. In the last Hajj of Allah's apostle, I assumed the ihram for Hajj along with Allah's apostle. I was one of those who intended to perform Hajj and Umrah, and did not take the hadi, animal for sacrifice, with me. I got my menses and was not clean till the night of Arafah. I said, "O Allah's apostle, it is the night of the day of Arafat, and I intended to perform the Hajj to with Umrah. Allah's apostle told me to undo my hair and comb it and to postpone the Umrah. I did the same and completed the Hajj. On the night of Al-Hasbah, i.e. place outside Mecca where the pilgrims go after finishing all the ceremonies Hajj at Mina, the Prophet ordered Abdurrahman, Aisha's brother, to take me to At-Tanim to assume the ram for Umrah in lieu of that of Hajjat to Matu, which I had intended to perform. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 317. Narrated Aisha. On the first of Dhul Hijjah, we set out with the intention of performing Hajj. Allah's apostle said, "Anyone who likes to assume the ihram for Umrah, he can do so." Had I not brought the hadi with me, I would have assumed the ihram for Umrah. Some of us assumed the ihram for Umrah, while the others assumed the ihram for Hajj. I was one of those who assumed the ihram for Umrah. I got menses and kept on menstruating until the day of Arafat and complained of that to the Prophet. He told me to postpone my Umrah, undo and comb my hair, and to assure the ihram of Hajj, and I did so. On the rite of Hasbah, he sent my brother Abdurrahman bin Abi Bakr with me to At-Tanim, where I assumed the ihram for Umrah in lieu of the previous one. Hisham said for that Umrah, no hadi, fasting or alms were required. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 318. Narrated Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, "At every womb Allah appoints an angel who says, 'O Lord,' a drop of semen, 'O Lord,' a clot, 'O Lord,' a little lump of flesh. Then if Allah wishes to complete its creation, the angel asks, 'O Lord, will it be a male or female, a wretched or a blessed? And how much will his provision be? And what will his age be?' So all that is written while the child is still in the mother's womb." Sahih Bukhari Hadith 319. Narrated Urwa. Aisha said, "We set out with the Prophet in his last Hajj. Some of us intended to perform Umrah, while others Hajj. When we reached Mecca, Allah's apostle said, 'Those who had assumed the ram for Umrah and had not brought the hadi should finish his ram, and whoever had assumed the Ihram for Umrah and brought the hadi should not finish the Ihram till he had slaughtered his hadi, and whoever had assumed the ram for Hajj should complete his Hajj.'" Aisha further said, "I got my periods menses and kept on menstruating to the day of Arafat, and I had assumed the Ihram for Umrah only to Matu. The Prophet ordered me to undo and comb my head hair and assume the ram for Hajj only and leave the Umrah. I did the same till I completed the Hajj. Then the Prophet sent Abdurrahman bin Abi Bakr with me and ordered me to perform Umrah from At-Tan in lieu of the missed Umrah." Sahih Bukhari Hadith 320. Narrated Aisha, Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh used to have bleeding in between the periods, so she asked the Prophet about it. He replied, "The bleeding is from a blood vessel and not the menses. So give up the prayers when the real menses begin and when it's finished. Take a bath and start praying." Sahih Bukhari Hadith 321. Narrated Mu'adda. A woman asked Aisha, "Should I offer the prayers at which I did not offer because of menses?" Aisha said, "Are you from the Hurora, a town in Iraq? We were with the Prophet and used to get our periods, but he never ordered us to offer them. The prayers missed during menses." Aisha perhaps said, "We did not offer them." Sahih Bukhari Hadith 322. Narrated Zainab bint Abi Salama. Salama said, "I got my menses while I was lying with the Prophet under a woolen sheet. So I slipped away, took the clothes from menses and put them on. Allah's apostle said, 'Have you got your menses?' I replied, 'Yes.' Then he called me and took me with him under the woolen sheet." Salama further said, "The Prophet used to kiss me while he was fasting. The Prophet and I used to take the bath of Janaba from a single pot." Sahih Bukhari Hadith 323. Narrated Salama, "While I was lying with the Prophet under a woolen sheet, I got my menses. I slipped away and put on the clothes for menses. The Prophet said, 'Have you got your menses?' I replied, 'Yes.' He called me, and I slept with him under the woolen sheet." Sahih Bukhari Hadith 324. Narrated Ayub. Hafsa said, "We used to forbid our young women to go out for the 2 ID prayers. A woman came and stayed at the palace of Bani Caliph, and she narrated about her sister, whose husband took part in 12 holy battles along with the Prophet, and her sister was with her husband in 6 out of these 12. She, the woman's sister, said, 'We used to treat the wounded, look after the patients, and once I asked the Prophet, "Is there any harm for any of us to stay at home if she doesn't have a veil?" He said, "She should cover herself with the veil of her companion, and should participate in the good deeds and in the religious gathering of the Muslims." When Atiyah came, I asked her whether she had heard it from the Prophet. She replied, "Yes, may my father be sacrificed for him," the Prophet. Whenever she mentioned the Prophet, she used to say, "May my father be sacrificed for him. I have heard the Prophet saying, the unmarried young virgins and the mature girl who stay often screened, or the young unmarried virgins who often stay screened, and the menstruating women should come out and participate in the good deeds, as well as the religious gathering of the faithful believers, but the menstruating women should keep away from the musalla, praying place." Hafsa asked Atiyah surprisingly, "Do you say the menstruating women?" She replied, "Doesn't a menstruating woman attend Arafat, Hajj, and such other deeds?" Sahih Bukhari Hadith 325. Narrated Aisha. Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh asked the Prophet, "I got persistent bleeding in between the periods and do not become clean. Shall I give up prayers?" He replied, "No, this is from a blood vessel. Give up the prayers only for the days on which you usually get the menses, and then take a bath and offer your prayers." Sahih Bukhari Hadith 326. Narrated Atiyah, we never considered yellowish discharge as a thing of importance as menses. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 327. Narrated Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, Habiba got bleeding in between the periods for 7 years. She asked Allah's apostle about it. He ordered her to take a bath after the termination of actual periods and added that it was from a blood vessel, so she used to take a bath for every prayer. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 328. Narrated Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, I told Allah's apostle that Safiya bin Huey had got her menses. He said, she will probably delay us. Did she perform tawaf al-Ifada with you? We replied, yes. On that the Prophet told her to depart. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 329. Narrated Ibn Abbas, a woman is allowed to leave go back home if she gets menses after the tawaf al-Ifada. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 330. Ibn Umar formerly used to say that she should not leave, but later on I heard him saying she may leave, since Allah's apostle gave them permission to leave after the tawaf al-Ifada. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 331. Narrated Aisha, the Prophet said to me, give up the prayer when your menses begin, and when it's finished, wash the blood off your body, take a bath, and start praying. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 332. Narrated Samira bin Jundub, the Prophet offered the funeral prayer for the dead body of a woman who died during delivery, i.e. childbirth, and he stood by the middle of her body. Sahih Bukhari Hadith 333. Narrated Maymuna, the wife of the Prophet, during my menses I never prayed, but used to sit on the mat beside the mosque of Allah's apostle. He used to offer the prayer on his sheet, and in prostration some of his clothes used to touch me.